Now, South Africa has registered lamb meat from the arid central Karoo region for protection under geographical indication status. And this means that it has the same status as products such as Parma ham, champagne or rooibos. But for more on this, let's talk to Professor Johann Kirsten from the Karoo Lamb Consortium. Johann, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Just take us through the process to get Karoo lamb this recognition and protection.
It is quite a long process because any geographical indication or any geographical name has to be shown that it originates from the region. So it has to be shown through an empirical process of scientific research to, in this case, to show that the composition of the meat, the taste of the meat really corresponds to the grazing of the Karoo. So we all know the fantastic bushes of the Karoo that deposits that unique taste and that smell and aroma into the fatty acids of the lamb that grazes on the bushes. So it is therefore for any geographic indication in Europe as well. It takes decades to put all the evidence together, to demarcate the region, to put the production practices in place, and then obviously dealing with the legislation. In South Africa's case, for example, we didn't have specific regulations for geographic indications. Most of the time we had meat regulations or a Merchandise Marks Act protecting names. But for now, this new regulations that were introduced for the first time in 2019 and again in 2023 when it was amended, now allows South Africa to protect its own geographical names through a process of application whereby you need to apply and need to verify the status of the geographical name.
Now, Johann, how financially valuable is this geographical indication status for any product?
Obviously, when you protect reputation, you have something to sell. But if you let the reputation water down through scrupulous traders, you basically don't get that premium that you should do. But if you think about most products such as champagne, Parma ham, Parmesan cheese, you're eating the real product. And therefore, there is a ability of traders and entrepreneurs in the chain to ask for the correct price and the price at a premium. So for Karoo lamb, it has been for years that everybody said lamb is the same as Karoo lamb, which is not. And therefore you had this strange mechanism whereby the farmers in Karoo did not get the premium that is due to them due to the reputation and unique taste of the product.
You've already touched on this, but what are the risks to the authenticity of Karoo lamb? What oversight measures are there, like you said, for unscrupulous traders to ensure that if you get a packet that says Karoo lamb, it is Karoo lamb?
Yeah, that is a major issue, and this is what is now need to happen. The enforcement process needs to kick in. And for that you have to have traceability. So the abattoir that slaughters the lamb must verify that the lamb comes from a farm that practices free range on Karoo vegetation. You cannot slaughter a lamb that comes from a feedlot or a pasture, planted pasture field. So the integrity and honesty is in place at the first time at the abattoir level, and then it goes to the processor and the packer where that traceability should maintain. And nowadays people use blockchain technology to make sure that the identity is captured throughout the chain. But then obviously you need to deal with those people just calling the lamb Karoo lamb in any little shop around the corner. And that's where the government inspectors, South African meat industry company, SAMIC, will now play an important role to do the enforcement and to make sure that the product is taken off the shelf if it's not complying with the regulations. And therefore, we need to think about other mechanisms as well. We are working with a group in New Zealand, now that we have so interesting competition with New Zealand, they're also helping us. The group is called arid, where they do scientific analysis of the meat and then can detect whether it's different from the fingerprint that is unique to the Karoo region. So we have scientific means nowadays to check and to deal with fraudulent behavior in the lamb market.
Johann, just the last one. So the GI status is now here in South Africa. What are the next steps for this status to also be recognized internationally for our Karoo lamb?
Yeah, rooibos has done the same route where they got protection under the Merchandise Marks Act. and then submitted the protection to the European Union, and they granted them protection in the EU as well, and they're now allowed to use the EU GI logo as well. For Karoo lamb, that's probably the step that we can now take, and therefore we will have to submit a one-pager application document via the government to the European Commission to get similar protection in the EU. We will probably first want to get permission to export lamb to the EU before we do that, because otherwise it's of no use. And at the moment, our veterinary processes are not in line with the European Union requirements, and therefore we cannot take it forward and make use of the opportunity to export.
Thank you so much for your time this morning, Johann. That was Professor Johann Kirsten from the Karoo Lamb Consortium.